After discovering that my ex-husband was having an affair with my own sister and they were secretly seeing each other, I cut off all ties with them. Story 1. 7 years ago my sister had an affair with my ex-husband. We were still married at the time, I believed happily, and she was his mistress. I caught them together and banished both of them from my life. I divorced him. I told her to get away from me and the two of them stayed together for a couple of years and had a child. My sister tried to reconcile with me 5 different times. I rejected her and told her I would never forgive her for what she did, and I did call her some names and wished for some bad things to happen to her, i.e., I wished for him to cheat on her and destroy her life as they did mine, and I told her she'd deserve it all, and not to cry to me if she caught anything off of him. I actually did a full STD/STI panel after finding out he'd been cheating on me with her. I was negative, but you can never be too careful, and he never denied there being more. I have been 100% no contact with my sister since, and I never met her child. Not even when ex cheated while she was pregnant and she ended up homeless. I told our family members I would not accept being around her. A couple of weeks ago this guy reached out to me. He's engaged to my sister and was mad I wasn't there to meet him at the dinner my parents hosted to meet him for the first time. He said my sister was so upset, etc. That she had wanted me to forgive her, etc. That he felt I was shitty to be mad at her for dating an ex of mine. I corrected him and said she was his mistress, that I was married to him, still actively married when they had an affair, and I told him I caught them in my home and my bed. He didn't reply. Several days afterward my sister showed up and was pissed off at me for telling him what I did, because he left her. She told me I should be willing to put the past behind us and reconcile and stop treating her like she's a criminal or evil. She said I act like she repulses me. I told her because she does. And I told her my feelings had not changed at all in 7 years. She cried and told me one of us could die and we'd never reconcile if I'm not willing to try, and I said I would not care. I told her she could die tomorrow and I would not regret my decision not to reconcile. I told her I no longer cared what happened to her, or if she was okay or not. She left in tears. My parents were so angry that she confronted me. They had already been disgusted with her being the other woman, but to confront me for correcting her lie, they said it showed she had not grown at all. While my aunt told me I had no need to be so cruel after time had passed, she told me I was treating my sister worse than she treated me, and that I should be ashamed of myself for saying I wouldn't care if she died because it's an evil thing to say to anyone, let alone family. Ada? Relevant comments, commenter. Well, actions have consequences. I wouldn't forgive either. Well said. NTA. She didn't care about you one bit while she was your husband's mistress. She didn't care about you one bit when she continued to stay with him and have a child with him. I wouldn't care one bit about her either. She only wants you back now because you were right, and he left her high and dry. My mother slept with my then husband while we were married with children. We divorced and I found out later that she was just one of a string of affairs he had during our marriage. You'd best believe she died alone with the finest medical care the state could provide, only attended to by the PCAs that the state paid to mind her. NTA. I would not forgive her either. Easy for others to judge and comment when she didn't do it to them. All of this. I can't imagine claiming to love my siblings and then having a full-blown affair in their home with their spouse. I'd be pissed at my ex, but my own flesh and blood. That's a level of betrayal 99% of people would have a very hard and difficult time getting over. NTA. She lied to her new guy cause the truth would make her single again. Any decent man would never get with a woman who fucked her sister's husband. She knows this. Tell your aunt to fuck off and ask her who she cheated with. P.S. Sister isn't family. You don't fuck your family spouse and marry them afterward. Commenter. The cheating was pretty unforgivable on its own. That she continued a relationship with the guy and had a kid with him just puts everything so far beyond redemption. Exactly. I think it's telling that she presents it like this, dating my sister's ex. Because she knows the truth is far worse, and makes her look like a scumbag. I think if she was childless, she would have outright lied about why they are estranged. NTA. Your sister betrayed you in one of the most painful ways possible, and you're under no obligation to reconcile or forgive her. Especially when it's clear she hasn't taken full accountability for her actions. She tried to rewrite history with her fiancé, and when her deception unraveled, she confronted you instead of owning her behavior. It's not cruel to set boundaries and protect your peace, especially after years of hurt. Her choices had serious consequences, and it's not your responsibility to repair a relationship you didn't break. While saying you wouldn't care if she died might sound harsh, it's likely an expression of how deeply her betrayal impacted you. It's okay to feel that way, and it doesn't make you evil. You've made it clear where you stand, and it's up to her to respect that. Sister totally overplayed her victim's hand. It read very much like the Barbra Streisand effect. Had the sister not made a big deal about OP not being at the dinner, he probably wouldn't have felt the need to confront OP about it and prompt her to reveal the truth. And if he's the family is everything type of guy, well, she should have thought things through and considered that he'd want to get to the bottom of why the sisters are estranged. Good for you. I am so proud. Also, your parents seem to realize you are right, but can understand them still seeing her and grandchild. I'm glad the fiancé left her when he knew how vile and disgusting she is, and want you to know it's good that you have shown her how consequences work. NTA. Just reading this, I can say for sure that your sister repulses me too. Your aunt is as bad as your sister is. If she is married, you might wonder whether your uncle knows she is probably a disgusting cheater too. Fuck both of them. Stop treating me like I'm evil. Girl, you cheated with your sister's husband. What were you expecting? A birthday card every year? You're not obligated to forgive just because time passed. Healing doesn't mean letting toxic people back into your life. Story 2. AITA, for refusing to change my daughter's name. My sister and I were raised by our stepmother and father. Our stepmother was very close to us and more of a mother than our actual mother has ever been. She passed away about 5 years ago after losing her battle with cancer. Her name was Leigh Ann, and it was very important for me to honor her by naming my child after her. We selected the name Leanna in order to honor Leigh Ann, while being somewhat different and more modern. My sister had the same idea of wanting to honor Leigh Ann, and named her 2-year-old Lee. We told her that we chose the name Leanna for the child we were expecting. Sister is very upset because she said that it clashes with her baby's name choices. My sister is not currently pregnant but wanted to name her future daughter Anne or Anna as another way to honor Leigh Ann. She thinks it would be stupid for her kids to be named Lee and Anna with a cousin named Leanna. I agree that that would be confusing as we have a pretty close family and the kids would be seeing each other a lot. However, we had no clue that she wanted to do another honor name for a future kid. Going into this, we knew that Lee and Leanna are pretty similar names, but I thought they were different enough that it wouldn't be too weird or confusing. I do feel bad because she already had a baby name picked out for her future daughter and we would somewhat be making it not able to be used. However, we were both close to Leigh Ann and I don't think she should be the only one that gets to use an honor name. At the end of the day, she can still name any future kids whatever she wants. And I have the same right. After thinking long and hard about it, we told her that we were still going to use the name. We want to honor Leigh Ann, and no other names considered feel right for this baby. Sister has been making passive-aggressive comments since then. For example, we were out shopping with her, and Lee picked out some kind of stuffed animal. Lee dropped it at the Walmart parking lot on the way back to the car. My sister quickly picks it up and hands it to him saying, "Careful buddy, she might want to steal that too." I'm pretty sure she was trying to imply that we stole a version of his name or something, but the whole interaction was pretty weird in my opinion. Edit. Her middle name is Karen, for people asking in the comments. I don't want to use it for obvious reasons, and neither does my sister. Edit 2. This is also really the only name me and my SO both can agree on as we have very different naming styles. I prefer more classic names like Rachel or Paula or Maxine. He likes more trendy names like Moon or Adrian. Edit 3. I don't plan on using any more honor names for Leigh Ann in the future. We have Naomi and Stephen, honor name from the father's side, picked out for any future children. I don't like any girl versions of Stephen either. So, no, I'm not going to name her Stephanie or whatever. This child is not Naomi though because it feels very wrong. We've tried referring to her as Naomi and it just isn't her name if that makes sense. Edit 4. If sister had a child named Stephen or Naomi I would not care. I don't own a name and she is free to name her future child whatever she wants. Edit 5. Her name is gonna be Karina Yall. Karina Lake. Lake may sound like a weird middle name but it's for Leigh Ann Karen, and her last name that started with E. Leanna, is off the name list for good. I don't want to ruin my relationship with my sister and nephew over a name. Edit 6. I can't find the comment back but someone was recommending names and said Bertha. I actually love it because it's very classic, but I feel like a child would get bullied with that name. Relevant comments. Commenter, NTA, they are 3 different names. It's bad enough when somebody tries to pull that, you can't use that name, because I might possibly maybe use it at some vague point in the future. Crap. Never seen someone try to claim you can't use any names that sound even remotely related to the one I want. Though, that's a whole new level of entitlement. You're not stealing anything. You can name your kid anything you want, and they can name their kid anything they want. She might steal it. First come, first serve. You wanted it, you should have grabbed it sooner. This lady must have been pretty feckin' amazing to get 3 kids named after her. I just hope these kids are given enough space to be themselves, and not expected to live up to their namesake. I have 4 nieces from 4 different siblings, all named after my mother in some fashion. Some amazing people do exist that deserve to be honored to the point of absurdity. I know Reddit likes to think that all step-parents are evil, but there are some really great step-parents. My step-dad is the only father I ever knew or needed. He's now 85, and I'm 63 and he's still daddy. Commenter. NTA. Your sister needs to calm down. She doesn't get to be the only one to honor your stepmom. She doesn't get to nix your name choice on some potential future baby. What if she has another boy? What a messed up thing to say to a kid. Seriously, WTF is wrong with her? I have a brother John and 2 cousins named John. No one got mad at anyone else. NTA. First, why does your sister get to honor your stepmother twice and you don't get to at all? Second, the second name is for a hypothetical child. If she has another baby and if she has a girl. No? It's ridiculous to hold out for that. Third, cousins having similar names is fine. Heck, cousins having the same name is fine. It happens, people survive. My husband has multiple cousins with the name David, the same as his brother, and the same last name. NTA, but expect it to be something that comes up every now and then for a while. The key here is that the issue your sister is having is not that you want to honor your stepmother as well, but that you are choosing something that interferes with her plans. Oh well, name your kid what you want to name here. You actually have a baby on the way who needs a name, not an imaginary baby who may or may never exist. Story 3. Aida for ruining my brother's childhood memory by admitting I photoshopped it 14 years ago? When my younger brother, 20 now, was 6, he went through a huge Harry Potter phase. He loved the wizarding world and believed he might meet Harry Potter, Daniel Radcliffe, or the other characters on a family trip to Scotland since Hogwarts was there. No one promised him this, but he convinced himself it could happen. Sadly, the trip was cancelled after our grandpa passed away, and my brother was devastated for both reasons. To cheer him up, I decided to craft a souvenir. I was 16 and had just discovered Photoshop, so I edited a picture of my brother with Daniel Radcliffe, to make it look like they'd met. I printed it, framed it, and gave it to him without telling him it was fake. He loved it, and fully believed he'd met Daniel. Soon he had an entire story about the meeting, what they talked about, how Daniel hugged him, etc. It was so sweet, and none of us, my family and I, had the heart to tell him the truth. Fast forward 14 years, and my brother still didn't know that the old low-quality picture of him meeting Daniel Radcliffe was fake. I never told him because his memory of the fake meeting felt so real to him that it became one of his proudest stories. Over time the memory became less important and the framed picture had been packed away in some box, and my brother has long outgrown his Harry Potter obsession. Yesterday, however, we were at our parents' home and we were bringing up old memories. You know how it goes. The story of meeting Daniel Radcliffe came up, and thinking it was harmless, I told him the truth. I thought he'd laugh, but instead he got visibly upset. He didn't want to believe me at first, thinking I was messing with him. I told him the real story of how and why I did it. He told me that it feels like I robbed him of a real childhood memory that he really cherished. And he feels embarrassed thinking about all the times he's told people about meeting Daniel Radcliffe in person, even recently. We ended our conversation on a semi-good note though. I apologize for not telling him sooner because I do feel bad that it meant so much to him even now. But I don't regret it. Back then, it made him so happy during a rough time, and I don't regret giving him that joy. I just didn't realize how much it still meant to him. So I'm just wondering, am, or was, I the a-hole? Relevant comments. Commenter. NTA. It's like Santa. You did it with good intentions and he never met him. He was 6, now he is 20. Maybe disappointing, but he's 20 years old. It would be worse to continue the fantasy for an adult. I am sure no one ever thought at the time this would be the result 14 years later. Sounds like he just never got the memo. It wasn't real. Much worse things that can happen as an adult. While it's a bummer he feels embarrassed, you had nothing but the sweetest intentions, and definitely thought this would be a few-year-long phase. Not something he held on to for life. Don't sweat it. Soon he'll have better small talk to make with the people he told about meeting Daniel when he's able to laugh about this. I don't think either brother is the asshole here. 14 years ago, the OP was a teenager trying to do something nice for his little brother. And now, I'm sure it's hard for the brother to learn the truth, and embarrassing to think he might have to tell other people he inadvertently lied to. Really, the parents should have intervened once they realized the 6-year-old believed he met Daniel Radcliffe. Truthfully, this feels like an NAH. OP was being kind, thoughtful and caring when they created the picture. Little bro isn't in the wrong for being embarrassed given how much time has passed and that he honestly believed the memory was real. Hopefully, with time the embarrassment will pass and he'll be grateful to have a sibling who cared this much about his happiness. Admittedly, I know little about child psychology, but am I the only one troubled by the fact that a 6-year-old, getting a picture of a moment that never happened, makes himself fully believe it did happen and then creates a total fantasy around it? Commenter. I'm still stuck on the fact a 6-year-old saw this picture and just suddenly thought he met Daniel Radcliffe and forgot? I was 6 one time, and my brain never did anything like that. How do you know? Fake memories are a thing and most of us have concocted some. It's freaky to think about, but very much true. ETA. This is why child witnesses are especially tricky at trials. It's really easy to suggest false memories to kids, and they'll be 100% convinced those things happened. I'm a tad surprised that you could convince a 6-year-old they'd met their idol when they hadn't, but you're still NTA. Did he even question it at the time? False memories are well documented in child psychology. It's very easy to convince someone of a false childhood memory, and they will even accidentally fabricate additional details. There doesn't have to be any malice involved, it's just a weird quirk about the way brains work. My younger sister remembers doing something that I actually did. I didn't bother to dispute it, but it took me aback for a moment. Just goes to show that false memories really can be planted so firmly they become real. Every time he told the story, it was reinforced. Parents really should have said something by age 12 or 13. NTA, you were 14, he was 6. You did a cute thing for your kid brother. It's not on you that the adults in the situation never clued him in, and let him persist in thinking this event really happened into adulthood. Really, they should have done something, up to and including getting him professional help, when he started developing the fantasy that the meeting had really happened, and behaving like it was a real event. That is when the adults should have intervened, because that is when it stopped being harmless fun. Edit for ages. I misread the original post. If OP was 16 when the pic was made, then the brother would have been 8, if he was 6 when OP was 14. That doesn't substantially affect my point here, other than that it is perhaps even more worrying that an 8-year-old would develop this fantasy because at 8 he should have been old enough to recall that they never went on the trip, so there was no possibility that he met the actor. Story 4. Ida for refusing to go to my mother-in-law's for dinner anymore. I want to preface this by saying that I am on the spectrum, and therefore struggle with nuanced social situations, which is why I'm reaching out to Reddit for some third-party insight. My mother-in-law has recently moved back to our hometown after finally escaping from her ex. My husband and I were unaware of the severity of the situation, because Emil made efforts to hide it, and I know that my husband is feeling very guilty about it. But Miel is doing better and has her own little apartment in town and has been working and rebuilding her life. We've made efforts to support her as much as possible, but we are in a tight spot financially, so what we can do is limited. For the past couple weeks, my mother-in-law has been inviting us over to her place for dinner multiple times a week. She has always loved to cook, and says she is excited to get to cook for family again. Plus she gets to spend time with our toddler. The problem is that she has consistently told us to be there around 6 p.m., only for her to not have dinner ready until 9 p.m. or later. And she refuses any help in the kitchen. This is a major issue because we wind up staying out past our daughter's bedtime. Her whole nighttime routine gets thrown off, and it makes it harder to get her down for bed. Not to mention how cranky she gets waiting for the food. I've tried to gently talk to my mother-in-law about this, but she has always been critical of me and of my parenting. She thinks it's outrageous that I keep my daughter on such a strict schedule, and insists that when her kids were little, they didn't have schedules, and just ate when they were hungry and fell asleep when they were tired, and it worked out just fine. I asked my husband to talk to his mom about it, but she basically told him the same thing. Then went off on him about how she was just trying to help us out financially by providing a few meals for us, and how it was terrible of us to try to make her feel bad for just wanting to spend time with her family. So he dropped it, and we've been back to her place for dinner a couple more times since then. And it's still been served at 9 p.m. and she's been making passive-aggressive comments about how I need to loosen up and how I can't expect the world to stick to my schedule, and my husband thinks we should just put up with it because his mom has been through so much, and he feels partially responsible because he was unaware of the situation and wasn't able to protect her. But after a particularly critical phone call with her yesterday, I told my husband that I didn't want to go to her place for dinner anymore. He insisted that she's just stressed because of everything she's been through, and we need to show her some leniency. I told him that she could come over to our place for dinner every now and then. That would be fine. But I'm not going to be held captive at her apartment anymore. We didn't really come to an agreement though. And I'm thinking that maybe I'm being too harsh on my MIL and torturing my husband in the process. So Reddit, AITA, relevant comments. Commenter. NTA. Child rearing theories have evolved over the decades since your mother-in-law raised free-range children. If you absolutely cannot refuse the invitation, which is not a summons BTW, pack some dinner for your little one and stick to your bedtime routine so she isn't cranky and fussy. If Mael still has a problem with it, because waiting for 3 hours past a specified time isn't rude at all, then you need to present a united front with your spouse that your daughter will have a structured routine. Info. What does she make that requires 3 hours of prep time? OP. It's not that she's consistently cooking that whole time. She'll do some prep, then take a smoke break. Then do a little more, and then take a play with baby break. Then a coffee break. Then she'll do a little more cooking, then take a phone call outside. Then another smoke break. Apparently, this is how she's always done things. NTA at all. She's not respecting your time or parenting. Her coming to your house for a meal is a great compromise, but you need to get your husband to shut his mother's attitude down. Commenter. If hubby still wants to go there, great. Every time hubby goes to dinner there, he takes the little one with him and is responsible for getting her to sleep and getting her ready the next morning. That should make a steep learning curve. I feel tortured just listening to what you have to put up with when you visit. I suggest that you and your husband get on the same page. Can you afford a couples counselor or coach? If not, you can set a boundary that you are not willing to go anymore. If your husband insists on going, he can go by himself. If he taking your child, it is all on him. I agree, it is not at all good for your daughter to be so disrupted, but I bet a few dinners by himself with his mom, and your daughter, might make him come around. It is outrageous that he isn't sticking up for you when his mom is critical. The only way I'd agree to this BS is to text her beforehand. Can't wait to see you tonight. Baby has bed at X time, so we'll be leaving at Y time. Then bring dino nuggets to heat up at 6 and peace the fuck out when it's time to get her home for bed. She can send to-go containers if she really wants you to eat her cooking. But, flat out refusing to go at all still makes you NTA. Not just the dinners though, the husband needs to be fully in charge of the bedtime routine. I bet he'd change his tune if the full consequences of his choices actually fell on him. She's trying to keep you there as long as possible. You need to nip that behavior in the bud, even if it means staying home with the little one. She's lonely and trying to keep you hostage. Go separately from your husband and arrive with the kid at 8 p.m., having already eaten. When she complains about showing up late, tell her to take her own advice and stop worrying so much about keeping to schedule. Your husband should also have no issues with that. Fuck that. She's doing all of that on purpose to neg you or some shit. She sounds like a total asshole. Just because she was in an abusive relationship doesn't mean she can't be a dick. Exactly. I think she knows her son feels guilty and she is taking advantage of that. OP has a husband problem. He needs to set boundaries with his mom and stick up for his wife. If she can't have dinner ready at a decent time at her house, then she can come to their house for family dinners. It is beyond rude to have dinner ready 3 hours late every time. I'd solve this by telling husband and MIL that I'm showing up at 5:30 and leaving at 7:30 regardless. If dinner gets put on the table at 7:25, I'd still get up and leave at 7:30. I stand up and tell husband it's time to go and he needs to be in the car in the next 5 minutes or make arrangements to find his own way home. The first time she cooks and nobody eats, she will get the message and have dinner on the table at an appropriate time or stop inviting you. If your husband opts to stay, you know where he stands on the situation. Either way, everyone will understand you're tired of dinner turning into a 4-hour ordeal. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you enjoyed our videos, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe to stay updated with our latest ones. Have a great day.